folks, we are back. It's the Info Warrior with Jason Burmis, and we have comedian Bill Burr on the line. And normally when, talk show hosts talk to comedians, they usually talk about, Lindsay Lohan's breakup with her girlfriend, or Mel Gibson's about to get divorced, or Phil Spector, he's going to go to jail finally for killing that woman. But we're hopefully going to keep it on the up on actual events that matter. And I thank Bill Burr for coming in. Thank you, sir.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Not much. You kind of came up after Patrice O'Neal went on the Opie and Anthony show and talked a bunch about the Obama deception. You were recently in the LA Times, as a comedian who actually knows stuff. And when they were referring to the Bilderberg group, they were, joking around calling it the Bill Burr group. So how does a guy like you get into information like that?
All my stuff is based on Wikipedia and YouTube videos that I watch until about 4 in the morning. I've been battling Anthony on the Opie and Anthony show for years about stuff like that. But I don't know, I met that guy, John Perkins, who wrote that Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that. I watched that Zeitgeist movie. I watched The Freedom to Fascism. I got to admit, after a while, I kind of had to tap out because it was so depressing. And, I would just be waking up in the middle of the night going, all right, what if I ran up into the mountains and I learned how to start a fire without a match? And, I don't know. It's unreal.
Oh, it is pretty unreal.
The level of, apathy out there is... I don't know, you bring stuff like this up and people, they think you're crazy.
Yeah, how dare you talk about an international organization of the most powerful, bankers, politicians, and corporate leaders in the world and say, hey, what's going on here? How dare people question that? And you mentioned America Freedom to Fascism. I'm sure you're not all the way on the up and up, but have you heard about this MIAC report they put on? It was in the mainstream media a little bit. No idea what it is?
Like I said, I've just been...
Well,
I've been
apparently
kind of just watching the whole banking thing, and I even say to people who aren't like into so-called conspiracy theory, it's just really like, after watching the banks and what they've done over the last couple of years, if you actually believe that the government is above them, I just don't know what to say to you. It's like clearly that the government is like middle management. I mean, I would think if the president said don't take bonuses, that they would have to be like, okay, the president said don't take bonus. I didn't know
but they slipped in legislation so they could. Yeah, but they slipped in.
We could say to the president, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we're going to take them anyways. Nothing we can do. Why don't you go back to your little cute house there on Pennsylvania Avenue? And
well, you obviously know that's how it's run, though. I mean, for instance, America Freedom to Fascism pretty much lays out how the Federal Reserve is anything but federal. It's not a government agency whatsoever, and they print whatever money they want. And I don't know if you know this, but the G20 just went down, and now.
Explain to me, how isn't it that like Ritz crackers? How come they're not $40 a box yet?
It's going to happen.
They could just keep printing this money. And we're not like the Germans there after World War I when they had wheelbarrows full of Deutschmarks going down the street to get some bread. That's one of my big moves, man. I want to get a bread maker so I don't have to stand in line. Maybe I'll start like a side business. I'll sell bread when this whole thing goes under.
Well, we had a guest on who predicted that oil was going to go down to lower than $50 a barrel last summer, and we all kind of laughed at him and said, there was no way that was going to happen. Then all of a sudden it happened. And he's saying you got 30 to 60 days before that happens. I had him on Thursday, so there's your answer, maybe. I hope it's not the answer. But, I also had Max Kaiser
30
on.
30 to 60 days till what happens?
Till it's wheelbarrow money time. He basically said the dollar had, this is the same guy, and again, we had him on when I think oil was at a 168 or 172 a barrel, right? And he's like, Jason, they're gonna knock it down to below $50 a barrel, and they're gonna keep it there. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way they're gonna do this. And he's like, no, it's gonna be a strategic move to bankrupt OPEC, kind of go after Saudi Arabia, and kind of bankrupt Dubai, and get a lot of people out of there as well, because the elite doesn't like that a lot of people are moving there. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I just don't see it happening. All of a sudden it happens, and like I said, I just had him back on. He's saying that the same people. This guy. He basically lived with these elites for 3 years out in Alaska back in the 70s. And I guess he got in touch with one of them, and he asked him what he could talk about, and he said he could talk about that. And now he's saying that the economy, the dollar, will be completely dead in 30 to 60 days, where it really is wheelbarrow money time. And I really don't want to see this country in that state of affairs. I hope he's dead wrong.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you,
Pretty
this
depressing
is why
interview,
I stopped
huh?
watching those things because I mean, so what do you do? So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go out
Well, that's
and
what
buy
I
powdered
asked.
food.
Well, I hope not.
know?
I'm kind of lucky because I'm out here in Austin, Texas, and I also have a place in upstate New York, and both of them have land. So I guess if push came to shove, I could grow my own food. Most people in a city type scenario aren't going to be able to do such a thing.
Dude, I live in Los Angeles. We don't even have a water supply, technically.
No, yeah, I know. I lived in Los Feliz for a little while. I really don't care for it out there. Good luck with all that. I'm not a big LA guy, but I don't know. I don't know what happens. Apparently the G20, they just had that. They agreed on a global currency. That's in the works. The IMF and the Federal Reserve are going to become one entity.
Agreed on a global currency already? When are we getting the microchips? Have you guys seen that new Duracell commercial where that woman can't find her kid in the park?
Yes. Why don't you talk about that for a second? Because it's ridiculous.
When did they start selling batteries that way?
It is.
She's like, cabin, and then she pulls out that little device, and then the kid comes running out of the woods. They're like, Duracell batteries. It's like, dude, the hell with the batteries? What was that thing she just pulled out of her pocket? How did that kid know to come out of the woods? He didn't have an antenna. His sneakers weren't glowing. What the hell is in that kid?
Yeah. I
like how they just show it. Like, oh, yeah, remote control kids. Oh, yeah, that's normal.
Well, have you seen the remote control kid yet?
There's a microchip on there. That's the big thing, though. That's how they're going to get everybody microchipped, is they're going to scare the hell out of everybody that somebody's going to take your kid. And just through fear. I got a buddy of mine, they got a couple of kids, and I was over their house, and his wife was saying she keeps getting this literature, making her paranoid about whether she knows where her kid is or not.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is the whole end game here?
Well, you want to know what the end game is? I mean, it really is a chipped population, unfortunately, and I don't think they're going to scare everybody into it like you think. More than likely, like the big guy in Sega just said that he's going to start looking into microchips in the next video game. They're going to want to voluntarily make you take it. There's going to have benefits. So look for like the next generation gaming system to come with the chip. You can already order one on eBay, man, for literally $10 plus shipping and program it. It's an RFID chip. You can program it to do all sorts of goodies, including track yourself if you want to follow GPS.
You know what the sad thing is that I don't think you can stop it because people will voluntarily. They're just morons. I'm so cynical after being on the road. Like when they could start tapping our phones, and then people came up with that brilliant, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, that and the whole, do you remember 9/11? That was a classic heckle I got out in, I was in Ontario, California, and I was trying to justify why they could tap my phone conversations, and some lady like a trained chimp just yells out, do you remember 9/11? And I was like, no, what happened? I was in Manhattan that day. Remind me. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Well, obviously you've seen, you've seen like,
like, forget about the governmental level. I just don't understand, like, people go into grocery stores, and now they have those automated checkout lines.
Yep.
It's like, why would you play ball in that? You're putting a fellow American out of work, and now, not only that, you're working for free. I actually argued with somebody. They tried to tell me it was a technological advancement. I'm like, how is that an advancement? How is it easier than me standing there doing nothing as two other people do it,
Mm-hmm. Well, they also have the thumb scan.
When it comes to that, I don't use those cards, when they ask you go into the grocery store, they ask you if you use a card,
Well, they phased that out in some places, too.
I'm not going to have you find out what are the essentials that I can't live without so you can jack the price up.
I know.
I just don't know how people look at that. Like, no, the corporation, they're trying to save me money. Like, they're sitting around in a boardroom trying to figure out how they can make less money and how I can get cornflakes for cheaper. I mean, I don't know.
No, it's gold. I mean, this is a great interview. I mean, you're telling it like it is. But a lot of people still believe that. They want to believe that, the powers that be have our best interests at heart. They want to believe in the American dream, even though they're losing their homes and they're losing their pensions. And, I mean, we don't make anything in this country. I mean, we are literally in the worst economic situation, admittedly, by the mainstream media since 1929. And people are still like, oh, check out my new iPhone app. Awesome, They have no idea.
Yeah, no, it's horrific. In the 10 years, 12 years that I've been on the road, I used to meet people after shows, and they had, like, tangible jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people made stuff. They worked, not everybody, I don't know, they're all in a cubicle looking at, like, a spreadsheet. I mean, I was, like, the other day, I bought a pair of New Balance, and it actually had an American flag on it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
they just stamp that on there. Kind of like how these corporations, they just paint their sign green and yellow, so then you think they're into the environment.
Well, you know what I like?
We're going green.
Well, that's a big scam, too. I'm warning you, man.
That freaked me out the other day. I saw on the, you know what the land speed record of the steam engine is for the car? It's like 126 miles an hour, and it was set in 1906.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
How hilarious. We don't even have to be over there right now.
No,
People should just be over there throwing rocks at each other.
Well, you ever see who killed the electric car? I mean, they have the electric car all over, and they had it for, you know, celebrities and whatever in the late 80s, early 90s, but they only let them lease them. And then no one was allowed to buy them, and they destroyed them all. But, you know, the electric car's been around. Ford built a car.
I saw that one, too. And
yeah. Yeah, it's another compressor.
They think there's no power in electricity. Like, I drive like a hybrid, which hybrids are a total scam, by the way.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at an old ad for a Chevy Chevette in the late 70s after the gas crisis. It basically gets the same mileage. But, you know, I got this hybrid. My mother's literally going like, can it go up a hill? Like, I'm like, no, I live on flat land. That's one of the little glitches of the hybrid. It can't go up a hill. It's like, have you ever heard of a subway? Have you ever gotten on a subway during rush hour? What's there, like 1,200 people there? They can get that thing going 40 miles an hour. They can't get my skinny, freckled ass up a hill in a Prius. I mean,
well, it's all about control, man. It's all nonsense. You know, it's all about control, and it's all you got to watch out all this green movement too. They want you to pay a carbon tax for breathing. They're telling us it's going to be less for us. They're going to expect us to make all these sacrifices. You're going to literally be taxed on how many cars you have. You know, how much garbage you have, how many kids you have. I mean, they're really clamping down, and that's what this green movement is about. And now
that's because we're every year you're behind the eight balls. They keep printing that money.
Yeah.
You keep getting behind on that interest. You know, I was in St. Louis recently, and not only did I pay sales tax on the hotel, I paid an occupancy tax. They taxed me for doing what you're supposed. It's like you're going to tax me for sitting in a chair pretty soon.
Yeah, well, like in New York, cell phone tax right now is at, I believe it's 20%. So look, for every $50 on your plan, you're paying $10+ a month just in taxes to have a cell phone. I mean, give me a break. I mean, they don't rape you enough.
The whole system is broke, and now, once again, that's when I tuned out on Obama. When he made that speech and did the we got to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps again. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. I didn't do anything wrong. I saved my money. I didn't buy any shiny stuff. I'm telling you, what they should have done if they, I mean, it's impossible. It's just too big a thing, but they should have let the banks fail. And then they just should have started over again.
Well, you need to watch the Obama deception, man. I mean, it's basically all about the banking crisis and what's going on right now. But on top of that, it shows that, Obama and Hillary went to Bilderberg this last year in Chantilly, Virginia. He's in the pocket of these guys, too. He's not about any change. I mean, let's be honest. He's redistributing the forces into Afghanistan. He's not moving anybody really out of the Middle East whatsoever. He still plans on 50,000.
Even if you're not into, conspiracy theory, just as far as, an economics thing, how the hell are we going to afford another $10 billion a month or whatever it costs to have all our guys over there? And also, why do we have to have our entire force over there, or a huge majority of them, to fight a terrorist group? I mean, we spent all this money on weapons. Can't they look into my apartment from space at this point?
Almost.
Some 7'8" guy over there with a beard walking around the mountains and vaporize them.
Yeah, but that's not what it's about. It's about building a Eurasian Union out there for another. They want the North American Union, want the Eurasian Union. That's why the European Union and the Euro is going to succeed. The Euro will be around. That'll survive the economic crisis no matter what they do. And the dollar's going to die. What they bring in, whether it's called the Amero or whatever, who knows what it'll be, but they're definitely blowing out this economy on purpose. And, they're basically talking about how we're no longer going to be the world's leader and we're going to be into a second world type economy. And that's what they want. They really want us to start sacrificing. And that's what it's all about, man. I mean,
and they used us.
Yeah, big time.
They used us for centuries, basically, to get themselves into this position. And now they're done with us, I think. And, yeah, man, it is what it is. The thing that scares me the most is that whole election. I didn't hear anybody talking about the population problem. I mean, it's. I didn't do so great in math, but I mean, it's pretty simple. If everybody keeps banging away and everybody keeps having 2-3 kids.
Well, they're talking about it in private. If you really want to know, Bill, that's again.
That type of stuff. And,
it's not.
You know what I love too. What I've really figured out is with this whole money thing is. that I'm constantly rewarded for putting myself behind the 8 ball, and that's really what money is. It's not my money. It's basically they give me money, and my job is to get myself into a position that isn't hopeless, but it's just one step ahead of hopeless. So they got me, you know what I mean? If I get married, you know, I get a tax break. If I have a kid, I have a tax break. If I get a mortgage, I get a tax break. If I don't get married, if I don't have any kids, I don't have any kids and I drive a hybrid, I think I should get a tax break. You know what I'm saying? I'm not adding to the traffic. You know what I mean? I'm not adding another jerk in front of you sitting there, you know, trying to make a left.
Well,
it's like, I actually figured out the other day because I'm sitting there trying to pay off my apartment. That's like my big move. The only thing, so I'll have something tangible, hopefully, before this whole thing goes under. And I actually figured out that if I paid off my place, my reward would be I'd actually pay an extra $4,000 a year in taxes.
Oh my God! Well, that would save you somewhat.
Like I swear to God, I mean, I don't know how clean you can be on this show, so I'm not going to say what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But it's just like they have every angle worked out. Every way you look, there's another you-know-what just staring you in the face, and there's nothing you can do.
Well, there is some stuff you can do. I mean, you can let other people know. You can try to fight outside the system. I do hear your plight on, you know, you finally buy your place and all of a sudden your taxes shoot up by $4,000 a year, so it's not even that much of a break for you. You figure after you pay for it, you should own it. But when you talk about population control, man, these guys are all about population control, and that's what's really scary to me because they're talking about population control. They want to cut, for instance, Britain's population from 60 million to 30 million within 20 years. How does that happen? You know what I mean? I mean, who's dying and why?
Yeah, and it's like
even worse than that. Let me say this.
You know what the thing about it is too is it's looked at in a business way. So when you look at things in a business way, there's no.
No, the little guy's going to get it. That's it. You know?
Yeah, there's no compassion. It's just it's going to be a numbers thing, and believe me, dude, this phone conversation alone, I'm going to end up on the wrong side of a FEMA fence can. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to talk about that in the last segment. Thank you so much for doing this with Bill Burr. BillBurr.com, MySpace.com/Bill Burr. We'll be back after this. It's the Info Warrior. Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv. All right, folks, we are back. Final segment with Bill Burr. And, you know, you just talked about a bunch of things in that long segment, but one of the things was, you know, the population seems pretty stupid, but, you know, that's part of their program, too. For instance, you know, in the vaccinations, they put mercury. I don't know if you just caught the latest story about high fructose corn syrup, but they said 50% of that was cut with mercury. I mean, they're literally dumbing us down on another level. And my next guest is actually coming on. I don't know if you saw this story, but they found 2 separate types of bird flu in the bird flu vaccination shipped out to 14 separate countries. And the only reason they caught it is because one of the subcontractors injected a ferret and it died. So, to me, that doesn't seem like much of a mistake.
I thought always in the vaccination you got to have part of the poison, don't you?
No. This had 2 live virus.
The vaccination came out from it.
Exactly.
You're really getting outside the realm of anything that I understand.
All right, well, let me just say this. 2 different live types of virus. It killed the ferret. And a live type of flu virus. All right, no, when you have a vaccination, you're supposed to have a small bit of it. You know, not enough to infect the person, and kill them. So all I'm going to say is go check it out. Bloomberg reported on it. It was the only mainstream media source in the U.S.
They're going to do stuff like that, and a bunch of people are going to die. Everyone's going to be freaked out, and you're going to have very obedient people left.
Yes.
And whoever is still fighting at that point just ends up in a re-educational system.
Well,
wink,
the
wink.
GIVE Act passed, and you
never see them again.
You talked about how there's too many people. Well, they really think that way, all right? And I don't know if you know how AIDS was introduced here, but just type in Factor VIII HIV. Bayer, with their injections, injected a bunch of hemophiliacs and other people who had, nothing with AIDS. And they admitted it. And then they shipped it off to other countries. And even with all the people who die in Africa of AIDS, think about it, that's where the majority die. The population, like you said, still goes up. So even with their eugenics programs, man, they're looking to wipe out even more of us. I know this is a very depressing conversation. However,
it's brutal. That's why I started to watch the Obama thing, and it's just like I can't sit here and I'm gonna have my head in the stove.
Well,
and, I don't know. I think
I hope not, because you're a really funny guy, man.
Regular people were a little bit more organized, and that there was some sort of pushback, even on little things, like say the airline's charging $15 for your first checked bag.
And 25 for your second?
The gas is so high. Gas has been down now for at least 6-7 months, and they've never relinquished that charge. And there's no sort of, I don't know, maybe because it's like 5 guys seem to run all the media now. You just never see any stories about any sort of outrage. You know, no one wants to pay that charge, but we're all just sort of doing it.
No, I hate it. I travel a lot too, and it's really, really, really annoying. And like, even if you want it as a carry-on, they have like size limitations now, and they're like, oh, you can't. That's like a suitcase.
Something freaked me out. I was in Utah, and it was a big long security line, and this guy's going, if you want to bypass the security line, we got this new technology where they fingerprint you and scan your retina.
Yep.
And you can go right around it. And get to the front of the line to walk through the metal detector, and it's just like,
yep, and a lot of people will do it.
You're not fingerprinting me and scanning my retina to get on a damn flight. I'm not doing that. So I'm thinking in my head, like, you know what? I'm not going to do this, but most people will, which is hilarious because they're selling it to you like it's this quicker thing. But once everybody's doing it, it's not going to be quicker anymore. It's just another way of it's just, another way of them being able to document who you are, where you are at all times, and it really limits your ability to ever rebel against anything that's an oppressive force, which is, if everyone gets microchipped, that's going to be the end. Because
I would agree.
They figure out who's, becoming a problem, all you got to do is just turn the person's chip off and they're homeless. You can't make any moves without any money.
Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
I can't tell you how much I hope I'm 100% wrong on all this
You're
stuff.
not,
because
man.
It really sounds like a Will Smith movie, but...
It's no movie, it's reality, my friend, unfortunately, and I thank you for joining us. It's the Info Warrior. BillBurr.com, MySpace.com/Bill Burr. Check us out at PrisonPlanet.tv. Hello.